yourself?
Not too bad.
Awesome.
Almost couldn't make it. I
Morning,
had
good
a
morning.
Good morning. Glad you made it, Ken.
Thanks. I'm kind of just gonna be like sitting back and like just listening. Not too much. I'll be getting into the paperwork you guys got in the documents and stuff to learn how to talk to people and stuff today. I didn't get a chance to look at all that stuff yesterday.
Yeah, I'd highly suggest you give that stuff a glance just because it'll really help you point you in the right direction before you start making those calls.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just printed them out this morning.
Cool.
All right.
Give it a couple more minutes and get some more people in here.
You guys do anything for Friday night?
Work.
Just worked. Yeah.
21, I was out there being an idiot.
Sweet.
Should we give it another minute or so, Alex? Or
Yeah, let's give it a minute.
All right.
Yeah, Alex, remember that call we were on yesterday with that guy?
Uh-huh.
So I looked into his property that he was saying he would do 5% with.
Mhm.
He's selling it for like 850,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice, fully remodeled house over in Scottsdale. It's fucking beautiful.
Send me the address. I'll take a look. Most likely not in our like ideal.
5% in Scottsdale, seller finance or sub two?
Yeah, seller.
Really? What's the percent down?
That I didn't talk to him about yet. I got to give him a call today.
I think he wanted 10% down though.
Did he want 10% down?
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the number he said.
Huh. There could be I think we could maybe find like a niche person for that possibly. I know a lady actually who's looking for she said $1 to $1.5 million house in Scottsdale on sub two or seller finance.
Really?
Yeah. That was like maybe like a week or two ago.
Okay.
So
yeah, because I was thinking about picking that one up myself with another partner of mine because Alex said you guys wouldn't be interested in that.
Yeah. Yeah, just for like cash on cash return wise for us, I'm sure that wouldn't be something that would be super high
yeah,
yielding.
On the videos I watched from you guys, like the tutorials and stuff.
Yeah,
you guys want to stick with like 500,000 or less, right? And then
most
like
of the time,
5% or less.
Yeah, okay. Most of the time. I mean, it really just depends. Like something like that, an $800,000 house. If we're putting up 80 plus K for the entry fee or down payment, the cash on cash return. I mean, I don't know what sort of exit you could do with that house in Scottsdale. I'm sure a long-term rental wouldn't be that great.
That's what I was curious about because I was hoping there was like at least a little bit of work to do to it to like, increase the value, but this guy's already done everything to it. There's nothing to touch.
Yeah. Maybe like a short-term rental. I'm not sure. We'd have to take a look at it, but usually that's the case with those higher end homes. It's you're usually not getting a good cash on cash. It's usually like more of an appreciation play typically with those.
Yeah, it's not too far from me. I'm thinking about shooting him a call and having him meet me over at the house he wants to do the seller finance on.
Oh, nice. Where are you at?
I'm in Phoenix.
Okay, nice. I'm about to be up there tomorrow. There's a house we have under contract. I'm gonna go check it out in Surprise right out there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah. Are you going to Pace's thing?
In October or November?
I thought he had one going on this weekend here.
Oh no, okay, yeah, that mastermind. No, I didn't go to that. There's another one, Creative Con, that's gonna be out there in November that I think I'm probably gonna go to.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to a little what do they call it? It's one of those real estate meetups, investor meetups today.
Nice. All right. Should we get it started here, Alex? Give it a couple minutes.
Let's go.
Awesome. So yeah, today it's just going to be a lot more. We're going to go over a handful of deals that we have in escrow and just kind of share some updates with those. And then also our website's finally up and running. So we're going to run through that and then just do a basic kind of Q&A check-in with people, just seeing how things are going and whatnot. We could get started with that, just seeing kind of where everyone's at, how the week went, things like that, if anyone wants to share.
I mean, I could start.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We got 2 deals under contract just this week, so
nice.
You guys got 2?
Yeah, shout out to Ron and Sherry, right?
Yeah. And then also Noah's, we we got assigned in less than a couple hours.
Oh, nice.
There was one we were planning on keeping, and then after getting the inspection report, one of our funding partners didn't really want to move forward with it. It wasn't too bad of an inspection report, but it wasn't great. So I thought the numbers were pretty solid on it. So we were just like, you know what, let's just try to assign this. And then within a couple hours, we were able to get it assigned with non-refundable EMD already down. And mainly being it's in Oklahoma City, which is a pretty big booming market, and a really massive house, less than a 10% entry fee. But yeah, the guy was going to do a pad split, but Alex and I haven't done a pad split before where you're doing renovations and renting it by the room. But that guy's going to make so much money doing that because it's like almost what is it, 2,600 square foot house, 5 bed, 3 bath. You could probably make it a 10 bed, rent by the room, and make like 4,000 plus a month, or maybe not 4,000, but something pretty nice.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
when we were running it, it was like it was around 2,000, but depending on how many rooms you add, it could be up to 3 and no lower
Yeah,
than 1,500.
yeah.
Nice. Is it just us on the Zoom call right now?
There's 19 people in here. It's just
Oh, okay.
no one's
Nobody's
chimed in yet.
talking. There we go.
Hey Daniel. Yeah, so that's some good news. Then we have another handful or so just pending contracts out, waiting to be signed. So I believe Sebastian has a pretty solid one that we're hoping to get locked up here. I actually just texted that agent Sebastian for that Florida one. Shoot, I'm trying to forget. I remember the name.
Which one?
Dockside.
Nick? Dockside?
Yeah.
Or the one that lost the laptop, the agent?
Yeah, that one. And it's so weird.
Okay.
She says she loses the laptop, and then she responds to my email within 2 minutes last night. I'm just like, what? So I text her. I'm like, can we get this one signed today? But that one looks solid. There's like a $500 spread there as a long-term rental. So that's one that we could assign quickly or keep if we decided to as well.
Yeah.
So hoping that one gets locked up.
I feel like
So I
if the
seen
if
in
the
the,
agent
Oh.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just
sorry,
gonna say,
yeah.
I feel like if the agent wasn't traveling at the time, this would have gone a lot faster.
Yeah. No, I agree totally. And I haven't spoken with that agent personally too, but it's just like, I don't know. You spoke with her. I haven't yet. It's just been messages.
Yeah.
She seems like one of the agents that just does this on her free time, kind of whenever.
Yeah.
So like, because I'm dealing with one like that in OKC where it's locked up under contract. This one's under contract though, and the agent like takes 2 days to respond. It's like, come on, you're getting like $8,000 commission on this, and you're treating it like it's your little fun thing you do when you feel like it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I seen yesterday everybody's having trouble reaching out to an agent.
Yeah, some people were saying that. I don't know. Fridays are sometimes just a little slower. Some of the lazy agents that'll be their weekly holiday, but apparently it's a holiday weekend too. So I didn't know that. Like, it was funny. We were in a group chat, Alex, and then our TCs, and I'm like, why no one works anymore? Like, and then apparently it's Columbus or Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. So this one title company, we have a deal in escrow with, they weren't open on Friday. They just decided to take an extra day off or something. And I'm just like, I don't know. So maybe that had an effect with some of the agents as well too, not answering, not sure. Yeah. But,
Yeah, what was his name? He got yelled at for having a New York number.
Oh, really?
The guy who he said he's pretty funny.
Manuel, I
He
think.
changed Manuel, the guy who changed his name in the group to what was it? I'm about to look at it. Hold on.
Oh, he's in here right now. Yeah,
Is
that's
it?
funny.
What
Yeah.
up, guys?
How's it going?
Doing good.
And we just got sidetracked there. So yeah, no, pretty solid week. Things are coming together really nicely, and hoping to keep the momentum going, and then doing a handful of these a week would be ideal. Yeah, I'm just trying to think here. I'm trying to be more me and Alex are just balancing things out right now in terms of like, we've been getting a lot of lead flow in, and then managing these ones in escrow and whatnot too. Have just been like, holy crap. So I'm trying to get better about being more active in the general chat and whatnot too, other than just, of course, coming on here. But yeah. So anything else you wanted to add, Alex, from what you shared before we kind of went on a sidetrack there?
No, I mean, we could jump into showing the website if no one else really had any wins or questions they wanted to ask or share.
There's got to be, come on, at least one other person in here to share something on the week, how it went, or feedback or something like that.
Share your
Sure,
Sure,
I just
I'll
started.
chime in. I'll chime in.
Awesome. Let's hear it, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately for me, I mean, I don't want to say I've struggled, but at least I felt a little bit more confident this week because I felt like at one point I was at least submitting one decent lead a day. But I was definitely that guy that got caught up yesterday where I felt like everybody I called was like not picking the phone up.
Yeah.
And then I even texted them too, and I think like one person texted me back and was like, "Yeah, it's under contract." I'm like, "All right, well, that sucks." So yeah, I don't know what the deal. I don't know what the deal was with yesterday. I think people just don't work on Fridays anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess like I said, not a huge win, but the fact that like I think I didn't really submit too many leads in the first couple of weeks, but I felt like I was getting a couple in it, or at least one in a day. So hopefully that'll transpire into something this week.
Nice. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, totally. And a lot of it's just a momentum and numbers game too. It's like if you're staying consistent with it, eventually one of those hits. And then sometimes it's like, okay, there's
Right.
5 offers on this one, back and forth. Sherry actually had a lead she submitted like 3 days ago or 4 days ago. And that's the one that I'm gonna go see tomorrow in Arizona.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
Hey,
awesome.
Alex,
I'm
I think we're still waiting
stoked.
on one.
Sorry.
Alex, did you ever hear back from the one? I know you you CC'd me on the one email that we submitted an offer, but did we ever hear back from her about that offer?
No, I could follow up today. I'm gonna start leaving my weekends since there's not too many leads coming in. I'm gonna start leaving that for follow-ups and just try to stay
Okay.
on top of stuff like that because yeah, I didn't hear anything back
Okay.
and at least it's good to follow up. It never hurts.
Totally.
All
Yeah.
right. Fair enough.
Yeah. And
Hey guys, sorry.
oh, go ahead. No worries, Ron.
I see everybody's doing the checkups. The two that I have, did you hear anything back from them? 2 LOIs?
Not yet. Or wait, I think there was one in terms of, let me pull it up.
And going forward, everyone, what we're going to be doing is attaching you to the LOI that we submit. And typically when the agent responds, it'll let everyone know that they responded. So we just are all on the same page. So we're going to be better about that. I know it's one thing that people are like, oh, like, hey, just checking up on this lead.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard from us, it's probably because we haven't heard from the agent. It's not that like we're trying to take anything away or just not be responsive.
And now with their website up, we're going to have the domain where it's not just our personal, it's going to be from our website domain, like general at jvwithblueprint.com. And we're going to be sending them through our website. And then another thing too is that's one thing to mention as well. I mean, we'll try to think. I don't know if there's another system where we can get better about in terms of letting people know exactly what happened with the lead, other than, of course, if it's a good lead, they're going to hear, right? Because they're going to get a CC, or we're going to say, hey, working on this one, we're about to get under contract. But like some of these leads are just downright not leads, whether it's terrible numbers or they want, or it's just there's not really an exit on that. So something like that, other than, because right now the system is, okay, the lead gets submitted, it pops up on our sheet, we underwrite the deal, and then if it looks like it's decent numbers wise, we'll send out an LOI. But then it just becomes, there's got to be some sort of way we can systemize it, Alex, other than us just texting the person who submitted the lead saying, hey, the numbers don't look good on this one.
Hey guys, it's Heather. You may hear some kids in the background, which is why I often don't speak on these calls, but just wanted to give a suggestion in regards to that. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking maybe we could just do like a Google Shares sheet where everybody's leads is put on that. And then that way,
the only issue is there's a big issue with that though, because then everyone, of course, we all want to trust each other and whatnot in here. But then if there's a shared Google sheet, then one person in the group might see these leads being submitted and say, oh, look at this, and then try to reach out to them or do something. Not saying that would happen, but that could be a problem with that. So Alex and I talked about that before.
Well, maybe we don't put the addresses or the contact in the sheet, but just like something else. so that the person could, maybe like the date that it was submitted or the hour or whatever. And that way the person can follow back up if there hasn't been a response or what have you.
Yeah, we have to think of something. I think that idea is good, but it
Yeah.
just simply wouldn't work just because we have 80 people in the group, and it just like if someone snatches a deal from someone else, or someone's trying to go behind us, or someone gets in the group who has access to our
The-
lead, it kind of defeats the whole purpose
The
of
thing I can think of is that's the other thing too with this many people, a CRM. So I mean, we have a CRM, but we can't have 80 people in a freaking CRM. So there's got to be a way though. Maybe we could try to reach out to someone who builds those interfaces and workflows and AI stuff. I mean, they'll probably have an answer. Because I feel like I don't know if it's simple or
What
not.
if we
but
do? I mean, this may be a little more work, but what if we do the Google Sheets, but it's only shared with that particular person? So you're gonna have, I don't know, 50 Google Sheets, but it's only shared with the person whose leads are submitted.
Or what you could do is, so in construction, what we did is we had a purchase order. And that's how we tracked all my jobs. So with each lead that you guys create, you could give it like a number. And then whatever number is associated with whoever, like all you gotta do is just look at what number it is and you know what the status is.
You know what? Yeah, that's actually that now has me thinking of
That's
something.
a good idea. That's
Alex,
a good idea.
what about in Discord when someone hits submit ticket for like wanting
Yeah,
a
the
list?
ticket number.
Is there a way we could do submit ticket with a lead? But then that would be good. Maybe someone does that, but then also submits it through the Google Sheet. So the Google Sheet's for us to see, and then the submit ticket. Would that work? I don't know. I don't really do the
I
back.
just think I would have like 30 different tickets open at one time because there's
Yeah.
leads constantly being submitted, and it doesn't take 2 days to close most of these deals. It's about a week or
True.
so
True.
too.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
Because the idea
it's
is not
new
to
what
give
you
you guys
guys are.
more things to
Okay.
Turn that down, please.
look and
I don't mind harassing you guys for the time being because you're also teaching me to follow up. So I'm using you guys as practice to follow up.
Yeah. And I'm definitely.
What about guys, if we do, when you submit it through Google, it gives us the ticket number, and then we can enter it ourselves into the Google Sheet, and then you can just update that sheet so that there's actually no identifying information for the lead, but just that number that was generated somehow by the Discord lead submission.
Yeah, I think what I could do is make 2 separate sheets, one for us to see and one for the rest of the group to see. And we'll just assign everyone numbers, and then we'll assign a number for that specific lead. And then everyone can go and be like, okay, let's just say you were number 6, Jack.
Yeah.
You go on that Google Sheet, you would see, okay, here's my leads, and you would see when the last time we followed up, and we could do something like that. I think that would be probably the best and then the safest way to do something like this.
Yeah. It's just systemizing and building that out, which Alex is good at. Me, I'm just like, I'm thinking like, how the hell would we do that? Efficiently at least. But yeah, no, I definitely think that would be good. And of course we should be doing something like that. One, so you guys don't have to be, but well, doesn't matter, of course. Like the way it's right now, it's just texting and following up with us, like, oh, what happened with this lead? What happened with that lead? But it would be easier to definitely have something like that for everybody, especially as this kind of builds and grows.
Yeah, I'll work on that this weekend. I think it's very doable. I think it's just a matter of having to assign everyone a specific number that they know is theirs, or maybe, yeah, no, I think I'll do that. Just give everyone a number, and then it'll keep it simple. And
Gotcha.
and I don't, and like the idea is not to give you guys more
Do you
workload.
really have to just assign everybody a number? Wouldn't that create more work for you when you could just assign the lead a number and everybody can know that the other person's name? Like that's not really gonna help anybody steal a lead.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, name would just be fine. Yeah,
we could do that.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Sebastian.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like the idea is not to give you guys more workload. Like it'd be good if, for me, like personally, I like to get more involved because the idea for me is to learn, and if I can be the one like following up with the agent, like I don't mind doing that instead of like you guys having to be the ones following up. Like I would like to learn. So for me, like if you guys tell me, hey, you follow up, I'll be like, great. And that's what I've been doing. So again, the idea is not to give you guys more workload at the end of the day.
Totally. No, totally. I totally get what you're saying with that. And
I
yeah,
agree with that too.
yeah. Um, yeah, Alex and I will definitely dive into that today and try to come up with something for sure to have ready by Monday.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily even that much more work. It's just a matter of getting it all set up. Once we have everything set in place, and we're adding about, I don't know, I'd say between 10 to 20 different people to the group a week. So staying on top of them wouldn't be too hard, especially if we go by name. I think it's something very doable, and we appreciate the suggestions, and we'll get to it and try to make it as smooth and helpful as possible for everyone.
Yeah. And another thing too is also one thing we need to mention as well is like the offboarding thing, which we've mentioned a bit, and we've probably offboarded like 20 people, right, Alex, since we started it. But then that's something we need to keep track of as well too. Like if we're bringing on 10 people a week, then of course, there's always going to be like a handful of people out of that group of 10 that just click join and don't end up doing anything or being active in the group. So that's another thing. Like, we've been doing this for I think right around a month now, right, Alex, where this is still like really new. So we're just trying to fix out all the kinks and whatnot, making everything as smooth as possible and beneficial for everyone. So that's one thing we're trying to keep track of too. And yeah, just want to say that so people don't think it's just going to become some huge, massive thing with 2,000 people where, it's hard to keep track of things. Yeah.
Cool. Well, does anyone have any more questions or suggestions before we go ahead and kind of show you around the website? Because going forward, this is going to be another way for everyone to probably submit their leads. We just pretty much got it set up yesterday, so we still need some time to figure out how we can incorporate the site and minimize the use on Discord to just kind of funnel it to either one place to go.
I'm ready for the website.
Cool. Let's do it.
And that's one thing I didn't really think of too, Alex. Actually, people from our group submitting leads through the website. I was more so thinking of like external people from the group who just, had leads they wanted a JV on or something. But that's totally something to utilize too.
Yeah.
Maybe we talk to Edward about that.
Yeah. I think it's very doable. I mean, we already have the lead form in here with basically that same information. So the website's simple. I'm going to post it in the Zoom chat just so everyone could have it for future reference. Landing page. And I'll just kind of scroll down. Everyone could kind of play with it later today, and we're happy to Pierce, to answer your question, we have a TikTok. We haven't uploaded anything.
Yeah.
We're gonna get some footage just next weekend. So
this actually tomorrow. Because when I walk that house in Arizona, because that's something we want to do. We want to have this stabilized first though before we start trying to juggle a bunch of other shit. So I mean, ideally, we definitely want to build out those social medias. But of course, like there's only so many things you can juggle at once. So like we want to kind of have this stabilized, or maybe we bring in a VA to handle that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely want to start filming content. I have a bunch of like recorded calls. I mean, I know we've shared some, but I have like a lot from previously when I was doing this over the last year, probably like 40 plus hours of recorded calls that I might clip up some of that stuff in like a nice office that I was in and start posting those, but then mainly targeting more at the creative stuff and like walking these properties. Possibly Alex and I were talking about going and traveling to see some of these as well too, and walking them and doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, we definitely do want to start posting this.
cool. Yeah, man. So just going through it real quick, and like I said, if anyone has any suggestions, we'd be happy to kind of hear you out. And so this is what we're thinking. Jack and I will speak about it later, but instead of submitting leads through Discord, ideally it would be nice if you go to this page and fill out the lead form here. So all that same info, basically you'll see on the Google form. So doesn't really matter as of right now where you submit it, but ideally in about a week or so, we're going to be switching to just the website.
And then Milani had a question. Would love to know what happens when the seller wants to quickly buy a new house once this one's sold. So if their sale is contingent upon them buying a new home in terms of, I guess, the DTI and having that cleared up and being able to purchase a new home. That's one thing that, of course, when you're doing the typical thing for clearing up the DTI is mentioning how the third party servicing company with proof or receipts of payments showing that another entity is making those payments on behalf of that original seller or debt holder. Usually within a year, 100% of that gets cleared, and within 3 months, 75%. But that doesn't solve the issue for, hey, if they want to sell their house now and go buy a new house, especially if they do a sub 2, then that debt is still going to affect their DTI ratio and their eligibility to qualify for a new loan. So there are other ways around that though. And one of those is creating some sort of lease agreement to instantly clear that DTI. Alex, do you know the exact, because I know you've done it with Matt Bell, but Matt Bell is like, yeah, if you want to explain that.
So I actually had a transaction. It's supposed to close within the next 2 weeks or so. And with that one, the sellers needed all their money from the sale of their home to put it to their next home. And so it was an FHA. So their only option for a loan was to just get a conventional loan because there are some rules behind how and where you can get FHAs. So it's a little complicated. But basically what we did is we created a lease agreement like Jack said. And so basically some of the money that was supposed to be cash to seller at close, I paid her for basically what was considered first month's rent. And then for the rest of the cash to seller down payment to close on her home, what we did is we put a lease option, what basically states that after 3 years, the seller will have the option to buy the property. And so we basically use a lease agreement and a lease option to allow that seller to get their new home. And so everything's smooth. They actually already started traveling. It was going to be about a 2-day travel because they're traveling on the road to their next home, but it's doable. And to answer your question, I would not try to explain that yourself. If you haven't done it yourself yet, I would just have either Jack or myself get on the phone with you. And we work with the loan officer. His name's Matt Bell, who most of the sub 2 community really uses, and he's really, really good and knowledgeable about what he does. So it's best to let an expert handle that because there's a lot of laws and regulations that even as an investor who's been studying this for months now, I still don't know exactly how to explain it as good as he does. And just to add on top of that, we were able to wipe out that home 100% off her DTI. So getting that new home was pretty easy.
There's other things to mention too, that can make it more complex. Like there's certain regulations with FHA and whatnot. So I believe I'm trying to remember my last conversation with Matt. If it's either 75 miles or 100 miles, but if you're taking over a loan sub 2, and if it's an FHA, that FHA loan, that other property they're buying, if it's another FHA, it has to be farther than 75 miles away from that subject property. If not, you're not going to be able to do that. But then Matt Bell offers a conventional, and this is the thing too, like someone really has to be in a urgent, really high motivation situation to probably want to switch to a lender and possibly get a 3 to 5% down conventional loan and change up their whole strategy of how they're going to acquire their new home. Not saying it won't be done. Of course, it still gets done. But I think we had a deal we were working on, Alex. I think it was that one Pierce brought us, that Alabama one, where I had a conversation with Matt. We were kind of going back and forth, and they had an FHA and they were trying to buy a new house like 30 minutes away, also on the FHA, so it wouldn't work. And then I was basically telling them like, hey, we have our lender who can offer 3 to 5% down just conventional loans. So that's another option, but their motivation wasn't high enough there where they wanted to take that and go through all those hoops and hurdles. But that's just something to mention too. That's just another kind of hurdle to overcome occasionally, depending on the kind of loan and the situation.
Well said.
And then I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts or suggestions with the website, because we've been tweaking it kind of, what has it been, the last week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Big shout out to Edward for making this for us.
Yeah,
really, really good. I'm really happy with it. So thank you for making that happen.
definitely.
I think it would be cool if you put numbers on there because everyone knows everyone gets excited about numbers. So like if you put like how many deals you closed, or like for people trying to come work with you, like what's your percentage on closing, or how many like for example, like the list you guys send us or a list that we can bring to our own, like what's the average, how many calls to leads to deals are we getting, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Someone actually asked that question to me in my Facebook DMs yesterday about how many calls they need to make and how long it'll take to get the first deal. And I did the breakdown. I would say if you're having 30 conversations every day during the week, that would be about 150 conversations a week. And you did that for a month. And actually, we're trying to get better as you continue to make calls. There really isn't no reason after basically it comes out to, I think, 600 calls that month. If you're not able to get a deal in that time, you're doing something wrong. So it's just a matter of understanding what you need to fix so you could get that deal. Because after 600 calls and having people like Jack and myself help you from basically providing you that list to even closing the deal for you, there's no reason. There's no reason to not have a deal in a month unless you're just not putting in the time.
Yeah, and I was gonna say totally. That's actually well said, Alex, because that's more precise than what I was gonna say. It's hard to track the exact KPIs on that unless we had a CRM with hundreds and hundreds of people in it, which just doesn't really work for this without it being ridiculously expensive. Because I know one of the old CRMs I had for like each new user, it was like, I forgot what it was, like $60 a month or something like that. And then it varies. Maybe there's a CRM we could find to really track all that with this many people calling, but then, now we're buying $10 a month virtual phone numbers and stuff like that. And it's just a lot of things that aren't, I guess there's trade-offs with it. And right now the risk isn't worth the reward. In terms of KPIs too, as well. I remember when I started this stuff like a year and a half ago and I was cold calling direct to seller was like 1 out of 200 calls. Of course, it's dependent on the list. There's so many factors. Like direct to seller, it was like, okay, am I using the right area code phone number? Because direct to seller, if I'm calling from a California number in Texas, that seller probably be like, what is this? A lower likelihood of picking up. And then a lot of these direct to seller lists we would call, there was no motivation. It was literally just like non-owner occupied high equity homes. So we're just calling, trying to find a needle in a haystack, hoping something's there. So the direct to agent lists, you're always gonna have that motivation because the house is listed on the market. So of course they want to sell the house. It mainly just comes down to the numbers. Is the seller open to it? And then the person on the phone, are they explaining this well? Do they sound credible? Do they know what they're talking about? Because someone could sound terrible on the phone and they could call thousands and thousands and thousands. Well, I shouldn't use this as an example, but like one of my buddies, no experience in real estate or sales or anything. And he sounded super shaky on the phone and made maybe about 100 calls. And he had one decent connection with an agent and it didn't lead to a deal or anything, but just like one decent connection out of 100 calls, which was like, okay, there's some interest there. Maybe I'll see. And then other people with more experience, like, I mean, some of you guys too, as well, like you're noticing you're getting a decent amount of leads and stuff like that. And like with me, like the numbers are way, 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 way better than that. But in terms of exact KPIs, I think Alex did a good job of breaking it down. And I totally agree with that. Where exactly you would need to be to really start doing deals.
And I know a lot of people really like to just track calls made, but honestly, I feel like calls made is pointless. If you're not tracking the conversations you're having, that's where the deals are going to come. You're not going to get a deal from someone not picking up their phone. You're going to get a deal from having a conversation. So focus on conversations rather than calls, because calls don't mean anything. And then I see we have 2 questions. Yosef, if you want to go first.
Yeah. I was just asking, and this may be a long shot, but I was just wondering if on the website you guys thought of possibly doing something like a deal calculator where we plug in the numbers for all the principal interests and all that good stuff. And because sometimes talking to agents, you don't really know what's a comfortable number to offer them based on what you guys can do and based on what the customer is looking for.
Yeah.
So if I have all the factors, is it something that maybe I can plug into a system that gives me sort of a reasonable deal based on what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah.
I can say to them, here, we can offer this much if the customer's interested, or if the seller's interested, can we have a conversation?
Yeah, and that's the thing that Alex and I are doing, because we're underwriting this stuff thoroughly and using our calculators and things like that, and some of our other systems we have in place. Just because even if someone had, and Alex and I are still trying to figure that out, because a lot of the tools we have, they're like paid tools that we can't really share. I know there's free templates, like Alex. There's got to be one free underwriting one, but at the same time, we don't want you guys to be making the offers. It's more so of just, and here's the numbers and let's formulate this offer together so we know that it works. Because a newer person, if they're trying to figure out something with a calculator.
That's been my pushback of not knowing exactly what to say as far as numbers are concerned. So I should really just get the conversation, get them warmed up, and get them over to you, right?
Yeah, you're really just going to want those numbers, the PITI, which is the monthly payment, the remaining balance, the interest rate. My team and I, my team does this all the time. We buy a lot of these, and in order to give you an exact offer of where we'd be at, I'd need that number breakdown. Let me go talk with my team, and we'll have something over. Yeah.
Okay.
So then once that lead's submitted, then Alex and I see those numbers, and I know in one of the Zooms I've screen shared that calculator I have. We kind of play with it there and see where we want to start and where like our max allowable offer would be. And then once we get the approval from that, then we send over a contract.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I just wanted to get an idea of what that was like. So that kind of makes my job easier, not having to try to figure out what those numbers are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the agent is like, well, I told you before, their first impression is to cut me off and say, well, we're not interested in sub two. And then the next statement they'll say is, if the house is being sold at maybe 350, they're like, well, the seller's not looking for anything less than 325. So I can't be like, well, my guys will offer you 330. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If they say they're not interested in sub two and they're saying a cash price, like if they're wanting a cash offer, like we're not really trying to mess with cash offers, but we're literally offering 60% of what it's listed at is kind of like where we'd probably be. Yeah. And then of course, if someone says no, they're not open to it, you don't want to just keep pushing and seeing, but
no, of course not.
Yeah, unfortunately that's just how it is. It's just
well,
you're going to deal with a lot of agents.
Bit of leverage of knowing how to weed through a lot of that stuff, because that's what I'm getting a lot of. But I believe there's still somebody out there that's going to be interested in at least a sub two, because they're
definitely
in a desperate position.
Yeah, and one I want to add into there is that I don't want to say every time, but I would say about 70% of the time we're able to offer very close to asking. And if you're able to say if you're able to come up to asking, to most agents, that's good enough. There's no reason to be like, oh, we could do 340, 345 when the purchase price is 350. Just, you don't have to give them a number.
Okay, good enough. Because you guys are working with some Gator lenders, right?
Soon to be, because we're having a lot of capital tied up. So that's one thing we're probably going to post about too, maybe in the group, just to work with our network too. Because I know a handful of people in here are Gator lenders. So that's one thing we don't quite need it yet, but I think very soon we're going to need it, because it's like some of these deals, okay, $4,000, $4,000, $4,000, $4,000, 3, 2, and then it's like, oh shit, we have $30,000 of our money out in EMD. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, question. Of course. Sebastian, you gotta.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I
no
guess
worries.
just going back to what you were talking about earlier and like having a better conversion rate with the calls and maybe the things that keeps us from making it a successful call. I think one of the, I don't know if you guys have a suggestion, because I feel like sometimes if the agent hasn't heard of subject to, and we do our best to explain, but then they're still the ones that need to explain it to the sellers, and they don't really understand how it works and what it is, and they're new to this. I feel like there's still that gap where if they may be explain it a little different to the seller, they might be open to, but
Yeah,
who knows what they're telling the sellers. They might be saying like, oh, they just want to take over your mortgage, and they keep the mortgage in your name, and
yeah,
that's it. And like, even like, I don't know if you guys have a suggestion, because I feel like even no matter how well you explain it to them, like you go into details, and like, there's contracts to protect the sellers and the buyers, there's
yeah,
obviously different things, they're still going to be the ones telling the sellers. And if they're not familiar with it, or they have objections, or yeah, I guess objections against it, they're going to push those objections against the sellers.
yeah. No, and that's a very good point. And that's just one thing where it's like kind of using best judgment and kind of analyzing it from like a cost benefit analysis perspective. Okay, like I'm sure we'll get a lot of course, if something sounds motivated, Alex and I are always happy to hop on a three-way call with the agent and seller to try to explain everything and make it happen. But then of course, there's another time too, where it's like, if we're getting all these leads and doing all this stuff, where an agent's like, can you tell me more about it? Where Sebastian, you're great. And you're doing really well on the phone, everything like that, where I think like, everyone's going to be at different spots, where I think totally you could thoroughly and easily explain that to an agent and go more in depth on things. But even I've had that before, where I'm explaining to an agent thoroughly and super in depth on the phone, and then it's still just like something super new to them, where they're like, okay, yep, okay. And then it's back to their seller, this, and then they look up sub two and they see foreclosure, or we send over the sub two addendum, and it says like, all the disclosures on there about, hey, we're not liable if there's a foreclosure and things like that. And it's just, and that's kind of what was happening with that lead that Sherry brought, which was that one in Arizona that we just got locked up. I got on the phone with I was on the phone with the agent probably like 20 to 30 conversations in the last 3 days. A lot of it was just back and forth and technical errors and crap like that. But then I had my TC hop on the call twice as well too, to go over the paperwork super in depth, and we were able to get that one locked up. But a lot of the times an agent and a seller isn't going to want to jump through all those hurdles and all that mess if the motivation isn't there. And then it's just like, they'll maybe come back to us because they'll see this is their only option, or it's just kind of cutting it loose and moving on. But it's kind of a nice balance there. But I think, I mean, that's something we could all talk about afterwards, Alex. But I think like Alex, that Sebastian totally would be fine, like explaining that, thoroughly to the agent and answering all the objections. Right. I mean, what do you think about that, Sebastian? Is that something you feel confident in, or?
Yeah, no, like I said, I feel extremely confident explaining everything, and like I'll go over like the frequently asked questions that people have, like the general objections or fears or concerns that they'll have, and I'll try to answer those before they even ask me about it. Like I'll be like super brief, but like concise and straight to the point, like just trying to like tell them like, look, this is how it works, this is what we've done, this is what we do, we have plenty of experience with this. Like I even tell them like, we're not in business to pay X amount of cash up front, paying your commission, giving cash to the seller, making monthly payments to the loan, and then to eventually just like, oh, we're not going to pay anymore, and then that we lose a house. Like that makes no sense for us.
Totally.
So yeah, like you do our best, but at the end of the day, again, it's always the agent that's going to have to sell that to the sellers. And if they in their mind they're not confident, or they're not really like, oh, this is new, like is it a scam, what is this? And then they're gonna push that into the seller. So I just wonder if you guys have like anything different that you could say to these sort of agents who who will be like, I'll present it to the seller, but I don't know what they're gonna say, and I don't know what it is, and like they don't have that motivation to tell them. And even though the seller is a motivated seller, and you're like, this is a great solution for them. Look at the scenario they're in. They're probably not gonna get what they're looking for through a traditional transaction, and this is really gonna help them get out of that situation.
Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, you want to try to play with their emotions and be like, the idea here is to help the seller out. Like, your job is to help them sell the property, and this is a great, option for them. But
Totally. Yeah. And that's one thing before that. We use that as leverage all the time as well, too. Like in my calculator, it'll be able to show how much of a loss the seller would be taking if they sold it traditionally at the ask price. So I'm like, hey, look, your seller would be losing $15,000 at a traditional closing here, where I'm actually coming in, I'm offering to put 5K in their pocket, and I'm still going to offer to pay your commission in full. Like, I want this to be a win-win for everybody. And no matter how much you say it, sometimes it works great and it's a great point of leverage, but then sometimes it's just, numbers game wise, that agent, it's just going to go through one ear out the other, or it's maybe I'm open to it. Let me kind of look into this. I haven't heard about it before. And then they see, when you look up, is subject to safe, is that, stuff like that. Then you will see subject to is a higher risk transaction. And then the paperwork, there's just some things in there that could kind of spook and startle people. But the good thing is, with it becoming more common now, as interest rates have risen and this community kind of building out, the subject to community, is more agents are getting educated, and then also educating the other agents in their field. So I think that will kind of have a like snowball effect and make it easier. But then at the same time, you're also getting the negative effect of that, of having a bunch of people calling these agents trying to get deals, where, as you guys have experienced, like some of these agents saying, is this a sub to offer? I don't want it, because they get so many calls about the subject to offers. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. But anything you wanted to add on that, Alex? I mean, I think kind of.
Yeah, two things. Just to kind of go off what you just said right now in terms of, oh, is this a subject to offer? I don't even want to hear it. If an agent ever says that to you, play dumb and let them tell you what subject to is, and let that be a way to dig deeper into the problem. Because a lot of times they'll explain to you why that might not work for their seller. But us being educated and skilled in this and doing this full time, we understand how we might be able to bend some rules and figure out how we're able to give the seller what they want and still make it make sense for us and as an investor. And then one other thing, Jack, for you, Sebastian, it's great to inform the agent, but also be careful of how much you give them, because if you're just hosing them down with a whole bunch of information, they're going to be like, okay, like I don't even know what was important, what I should even tell the seller. So just remember to tell the agent what they want to hear. Obviously, you have to disclose everything, right? But just be careful on what you tell them, and make sure, like you said, I'm sure you're doing great. We're seeing it because of how many leads you're getting, so we know you're doing great. But just be cautious of how much you're telling them and what you're telling them.
Great.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That information overload can be a problem. And that's one thing I think that I have an issue with, Alex. I mean, it's fine though, because I feel really confident talking about this stuff and like can articulate well about it and stuff. But sometimes I'll just talk super quick and just information overload occasionally. But
and
so you have to go ahead.
Okay. One thing I would want to just say is, as you tell them, ask them like, does that make sense? Are we both on the same page? And if they're like, no, I don't really know, go back and try to explain it in another way to help the agent understand what you're trying to get across. So just,
Hey guys, it's Heather again. I just want to ask a question in regards to that, maybe give a suggestion. I really like the idea of how Jack was explaining that he gives them the comparison of what they would lose on a traditional sale. Do you think possibly when we're submitting, or you guys are submitting the letter of intent, that you could give them that screenshot on the document so that it's kind of clear to them how sub two can benefit in a picture, as opposed to just like, the words that they're getting?
Yeah, I actually kind of like that. What do you think, Alex? I mean, I don't think we could have like an exact number because it's not, it's just kind of an estimation, but maybe some verbiage in in a line that's
Yeah.
stating, you know, that this will allow the seller to not have to write a check at closing.
Right.
Um, so we just have to tweak that per scenario because not every single deal we're doing is going to be like that. Like probably 75% of them, the seller is still netting at least something at closing.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have gotten pushback from agents too on that. Like actually this recent Arizona one where I'm like, the sellers would have been writing a check for 15 grand at closing. And this agent savvy though, she's taken some Pace Morby courses and whatnot and was looking out for the seller's best interest. But she was saying, well, you as an investor, you're getting a 2.5% interest rate. So you should be paying a premium for that, which is kind of funny. And I don't think a lot will be like that. But yeah, I think that's actually something we could definitely include.
Yeah, because I think, you know what, I think it helps to educate the agents as well when they're looking at these LOIs. You know, to the discussion that the previous person, I didn't get to see what his name was, but he was saying like, you know, how if they won't give us the information, how do we get the information? I find that it's been somewhat helpful to send that generic LOI letter out and let them see the bullet points of the benefits of sub two. So, you know, having that screenshot where you can look at the picture where it's potential, but this could be a potential scenario where subject to is better than traditional, I think it's helpful.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Heather, and thank you for bringing that up. And everyone should be doing that. I know Alex and I have touched on that a handful of times before, both in these Zooms and also in the chats. But if an agent doesn't give you numbers, unless it's like, hey, I don't know these exact numbers, the seller's super motivated, this thing is good to go, just let's, you know, then maybe something like that gets submitted. But if they're like, well, I don't know what the remaining balance is and the interest rate and the monthly payment, can you just send something over and I'll present it and see? Something like that should be, you go to the helpful documents in Discord and you click that link to the template, yeah, the letter of intent template, and then you send that over, and then they see that in writing what our idea is, how it would work, and then hopefully then they would be open-minded to it and interested, and then send back numbers, which you would then submit.
Yeah.
And then once we get those numbers, then we can actually have an idea of, you know, in this scenario, the traditional scenario, the seller would be losing $12,000 at closing, but with our subject to scenario, the seller would be getting $5,000 in their pocket at closing.
And in that scenario where they want you to send over that generic LOI, what I would recommend, if it's not Jack or myself doing it, what you could be doing, like someone like you, Sebastian, or you, Heather, say you send that generic LOI. The following day, you follow up with them. If they say they're not interested, say, perfect, that's perfectly fine. We totally understand. Would it be okay if I follow up with you in a week? Because honestly, sometimes time is the only thing that will really allow these deals to happen. And so just following up and making sure you're staying on top of your leads will really help you, because to expect to close a deal in one conversation, two conversations is just not realistic. Jack and I are having about 15, like you said, 30 conversations before we get that deal under contract. So it's not like, oh, I made an initial call, I'm going to close this deal. It's not how it is 90% of the time.
Yeah, that's very true. And some of them are smooth and easy. And, you know, I've had them before where it's a handful of calls. I've had one call closes before with the cash wholesale deals previously, but these with the agents involved, it's never going to be like a one or two call close. And then that one in Arizona recently was like intense. Like that was one of the more intense ones I've had. And we still got it done in a pretty quick time frame of like 30 calls in like a 72-hour span. So that was one of the more intense ones. So, and that's one thing too, that would be great if we have something to keep, so everyone can keep track and see what's going on. Cause not saying you guys think this, but like if we're getting X amount of leads submitted, it's like, and I'm having conversations with this agent, 30 conversations in 3 days. And then there's this and this and this, and we're underwriting. And it's like, holy shit, Alex and I have like a ton of stuff. Cause like I'll joke around with Alex, like it's like, oh my gosh, some days it's like our brain just feels like it's going to explode, with just going back and forth and underwriting and, you know, trying to get these deals locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully, you know, we're not having 30 call conversation closes for everyone. It's usually still probably in that 5 to 10 call range.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, my question kind of maybe off topic a little bit, but I know when sending in offers, the agent's basically obligated to show it to their seller. Is it the same thing with the LOIs? Are they obligated to show their sellers, or do they not have to show their sellers?
They are supposed to because it's something in writing. Doesn't mean they do all the time. Probably, I don't know. I couldn't give you a percentage, but I know a lot of them don't. What could we do about that? Hey, did you guys really show this? I haven't heard anything back. I'm going to report you to the MLS, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, it's just unfortunately part of it because that happens a lot where we send them out and follow up multiple times and there's just no response from the agent. Yeah, but technically as long as there's something in writing and it's not just a verbal on the phone, they're obligated and legally supposed to show their client the offer.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add on top of that, Jack, is let's say they are not responding or ghosting you. Send them a text, being like, hey, what did I do something wrong? And I've heard a lot of good feedback from people asking that question and getting the agent to at least be like, hey, I don't think it's going to fit for this seller, which is kind of expected if they haven't responded to you for a week, but just another way to kind of get back in contact with them.
Okay. Okay.
I think there was some questions in the chat too that I just wanted to scroll up on really quick that we were talking, so we kind of missed them. So what about expired listings? I think that's probably definitely something we might want to incorporate here in the near future too. The only thing with expired listings is, we're skip tracing those and whatnot, and that's totally something we do, but it's just going to involve some more being on track and on top of things more. I mean, I think we could start maybe pulling some lists like that here in the near future, Alex, right, for expired listings, because there's definitely good potential with those. Once we get a great off-market property, what paperwork? So these are going to be, all these are on-market properties. We're doing direct to agent here. And pretty much the paperwork, it's going to be dependent on the agent and their brokerage. Some brokerages just are mandate the state contract. And then the ones that don't, we send over our sub two contract, and then the sub two addendums and things like that. And maybe that's what we could actually do on a future call here, Alex. We could go over, technically we can't share like the Pace Morby subject to contract because we sign like NDAs from that private group that we paid a decent amount of money for. But we can go over like the state contracts that we've filled out and how those work and the special provisions we add on there, basically describing the subject to transactions and how it works. Because I'd say probably like 75% of these deals, we are having to use the state contract and just attaching the sub to addendum because the brokerages require that. What's the onboarding process? I'm not sure what that question's about. Maybe it was something off the website.
Yeah, I could speak to you later today, Matthew. I know we're speaking through Facebook DMs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then Kenneth, so what's the reason in talking to a realtor? Can't you just reach out to the seller directly? You can. It's just going to get very sloppy though and messy, and it's just like cost benefit risk reward when there's so many different, when there's an abundance of on market deals out there that have opportunity for sub two. Is it worth us spending X amount of time trying to go around the agent's back, skip trace the seller, spam the seller? Hey, the agent's probably not presenting this to you. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And then the seller checks with the agent and says, what about this offer? And then the agent tells them, don't do sub two. And then 99% of the time, it's going to be a waste of time for all parties.
Yeah.
And
I just kind of want to add something onto that. It's never worth it.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because it leaves a bad taste in the agent's mouth when you do that. And two, how do you know who the agent is and the relationship between their client? What if that's their cousin? And then now they're saying, oh, look, you have someone trying to go around you. It's not a good look. It's not worth pursuing.
Yeah. And let's see here.
I just wanted to add something to what Heather was mentioning earlier. Like what I do always is I look up the property on Zillow and I look at when the property was purchased, how much it was purchased for, and then how much their asking price is, and then you can kind of calculate more or less, if they sell the property for X amount of money and it's been on the market for 60 plus days, they're probably not going to get the asking price, or they're probably going to get a lower offer. and minus all the commissions and things, then you can kind of see where the seller is going to come out. And sometimes the agent might even mention that. So I always use that on the calls, saying, you know, if the seller is looking for something traditional, they're probably not going to come out. They're probably going to have to come out of pocket to pay some of the closing costs and things like that. And this can benefit them. So use that to your advantage when you're looking up, or when you're talking to the agent. Make sure you look up the property in Zillow and you understand when it was purchased, how much it was purchased for, how much they're asking for it now, how long has it been on the market, because it can give you points to kind of add to your advantage.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sebastian. I highly suggest doing what he just said. If you're not looking up that listing on Zillow, and like you said, checking when it was last bought at, seeing how many days on market, looking at pictures, those will all give you better, it'll allow you to have better conversation, because now you have a better understanding of where the seller is and how you could really be a resource as an investor to them.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Sebastian, I'm really glad you brought that up, because those are like the two numbers that I always look at, is the number of days on the market and what it last sold for, and actually what year it sold for. Because if it sold, let's say it sold in 22 for 320 and it's now relisted again 8 months later in 23 for like 360, you know, then that's a good you know, a good I guess indicator that you know, they don't have a lot of equity. There's clearly some sort of pain, and you could probably, like you said, use that to your advantage.
Yep, 100%. And they probably have a good interest rate.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah. Anything 1102, anything else we wanted to touch on or go over? We just wanted to touch on a handful of deals that we were working on, just give some updates, show the website, and just do kind of a brief Q&A here. I think next week, one of the topics will be kind of going over contracts and paperwork. We do have to be careful with what we do though with that, just because, like I said, like sub two is like, shoot, I don't know, $8,000 or $10,000. I forgot what the price is to get into it. And we have to sign NDAs. So we can't be showing certain contracts. Like I said, we can show the state contracts and basic assignment contracts and things like that, and explain the process and whatnot and how it's working. So I think that could be a good topic we could go over. And also we're actually assigning that Oklahoma City deal to. Alex and I think we mentioned in the last meeting that we wanted to maybe start bringing on some guests and having other people speak and things like that. And this guy's done, I think, a handful of pad splits this year, and he's pretty well versed in the pad split, and that's kind of his exit strategy. So he was maybe thinking of, you know, I mentioned it to him, so we could kind of track the deal from start to finish, because I know we underwrote that deal in one of these previous Zooms. And then of course, like, Noah brought us this deal from the group. And then I think it'd be also kind of cool to see this guy who ended up buying it, his exit strategy, and explaining it and showing the numbers breakdown and everything like that. I think that'd be cool for everyone to see. So that's something we'll probably have here in the near future too. And then also as well, Alex and I have been doing, you know, and plan on doing a lot more networking and more in-person stuff, and trying to get guests on these calls as well too. I don't know. I think that would be cool. What do other people think in terms of that, or what's some suggestions in terms of what we can do, other than, I think once a week we'll always have some role play, and then we also want to start maybe incorporating some live calling and things like that too, just to kind of keep everyone on their toes and up to date with things.
Yeah, I think one thing I haven't really spoken to you about this, Jack, but I was thinking maybe we could start scheduling an hour sometime throughout the week to where you could set appointments for us, and then we could have a three-way call and have everyone else kind of listen in on it. I think that would be really helpful for everyone.
Oh, with like agents?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
whoever brought us the lead, we'd hop on a three-way call, do it live, so you guys could all hear how we are on the phone, and just kind of take some notes and do stuff like that.
yeah, no, I like that idea too. That could be cool. And then
Yeah,
also
that'd be great.
too, I've been recording that many lately, but there's a handful that I've recorded recently that I haven't posted. But with the amount of calls we're doing, there's a shit ton of content we can be saving to post as well, just for more updated recorded calls, to just kind of keep adding a few of those to that list too. So that's something we'd always do in case someone misses the Zoom or something like that as well. Let me see the chat here. Cool. Yeah. Any other suggestions or anything else from anyone?
I like the idea of you guys like talking about, I mean, you don't have to necessarily show the contracts, but understanding the entire process, like I was, like we briefly talked about in the last Zoom meeting. I think for us, that's great. Like, okay, this is, you know, you analyze the deal and you underwrite it, we submit the offer, they maybe counter, then we counter again, okay, and then we agree on something, then we do the purchase agreement, and you know, then this happens. And understanding like the entire process is good for us as well, like knowing how to move forward, so eventually we could do it on our own, not necessarily like you showing us, oh, this is the contract and this is the clauses, that because obviously that's, you know, you guys cannot show that because of the NDA, but just having like the general understanding, that would be really good.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something, you know, I think we could save a whole meeting for that, because I could kind of dive into that now in like 5 minutes. But I think if we like had some examples of state contracts and stuff and thoroughly explaining it, that would be cool as well. Because it's interesting, man, like how you can just make money like that doing this stuff. Like that one in OKC, Alex and I, we wanted to keep that with a private money partner, but then that one, it's like, it's a really large house. The other exits are going to involve some capital or might be a little risky with holding costs that we didn't want to take on. So literally in a matter of a couple hours after I posted in, well, we have like buyers list of people we know personally that we'll reach out to. We'll post it in different groups, the private subject to groups, sometimes in the free group and a handful of other groups, just to try to get more traction. And then within a couple hours, someone from Sub 2 reached out to me. And since I already had an inspection done on that property, I had the inspection report. He saw it, he liked it, sent over an assignment agreement, and then he sent in his non-refundable $5,000 earnest money deposit. So just in a matter like that, you know, we were able to get an assignment done. And
that's the house that you guys showed us last week, right?
Yeah, that older, outdated, large house.
You were thinking about possibly doing pass split and doing 9 rooms and
so that's what this guy's gonna do.
Nice.
Because unfortunately with us, like we've never done a pad split before, capital wise. I don't want to say, okay, let's try to do it. Here's 60 grand in this renovation, and oh shit, you know. And our private money partner, we were potentially going to team up with on that one. There were some things in the inspection report that they wanted to investigate further, which is understandable. But then at that, they're just like, yeah, I don't think it's something we're comfortable with, because there was some minor plumbing issues and foundational issues that definitely could be a little bit of a problem. But with that pad split guy, he was totally fine with it, especially with the earnings potential. And he's going to have to do, you know, renovations to it anyway.
Cool.
And then, tomorrow I'll definitely record some in-person videos of that Arizona deal I'm going to walk, because that'll be kind of cool. I mean, Alex and I, there's a deal we have in San Antonio as well that we're thinking of maybe flying out to and walking that one after closing or something like that. Who knows if we'll actually do that or not, though, because that stuff's time consuming and costs money. So I don't know. It'd still be cool though, but we definitely want to start kind of getting content like that for the deals we're doing, like actual in-person stuff and breakdowns of them. I think would be interesting and cool. Yeah. Anything you wanted to add, Alex, or should we kind of wrap things up here? Or if anyone else has questions or whatnot, because I got some time now. I got a call at noon. I don't know if anyone has questions or something. We could maybe chill in the Discord general call for a little bit, or if you wanted to talk about things, Alex or anyone else.
Yeah, I think we could wrap it up here and maybe move on to the Discord, but just one thing for everyone to consider, what you put into this is what you're going to get out. If you're not really putting in time, then you're not going to see anything. And for those that are putting in work, are already seeing some pretty fast results. And so, yeah, just if you want it, I mean, it's all yours. Jack and I just have been doing this for the past, well, Jack's been doing it for a little bit longer than me, but I started in May. I spent 2 months really learning everything. And I don't think that's the right way, just the way I went about it. And 5 months later here, we have 5 deals in escrow, and doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. So if I could do it, everyone could do it. So just wanted
Yeah.
to.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and totally like for a while, like I was just working on teams, like closing leads for them, and you know, because and that's the expectation here we have with this, right? It's like just like you were saying, Sebastian, like the whole goal of this is, hey, I want to start buying my own properties and doing this myself, but everyone has to start somewhere, you know. And like for me, I was working for other people for probably just about a year, doing the cold calling, closing a decent amount of deals for other people. And then I realized on one deal where I was like, wow, I just made my partner so much money on this deal. And granted, I'd been doing this for a year though, right? So I'd been getting all the information and knowledge and putting in the reps and learning all this stuff through repetition, where I was talking to other people and they're like, Jack, you're like, you just got to just start doing something yourself. And like, um, and I've kind of had this idea for a bit. And so as Alex and I started collaborating and decided to, you know, kind of create this team here where it's like a win-win for everybody, where we're trying to really build something out that, not saying I didn't get the help I wish I had when I started, but right when I started, it was just like, okay, cold call. And then I just have a script and that's it. And I'm just like, what am I doing? And it was like that for a while. And then I was figuring it out myself. Of course, that slows down the learning curve though, and doesn't make it as efficient as possible. But then after closing a decent amount of these, I started to explore more into the creative stuff. And in like April, for these other guys I was working for, I closed a couple creative deals for them, and I started to see the potential with raps and how those worked. And I was like, you know what, we could totally just start doing this ourselves. And like Alex said, in just a short period of time, it's been going really well, and we're hoping to be assigning or wholesaling a decent amount a month. Well, we're trying to do 10 deals a month in the next by 2024, you know, 5 to 10 deals a month by 2024, which I think is totally a possibility. But sorry, that was just kind of a random thing. Just basically just stating, just like Alex said, like if you're willing to put in the work, because we're putting in a shit ton of work. Like we're doing this like from wake up till bedtime, and bedtime's at like 2 a.m. So yeah. And I was talking to someone last night where she's been doing this for just over a year, and she was telling me, she's like, oh, I'm going to fly out to this apartment complex I'm trying to buy sub 2, and she has like 50 doors under her belt in just over a year's time. And hearing stuff like that motivates me, where I'm like, oh damn, like it's just, yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know if Alex and I want to do a whole motivational thing, and I'm sure all of you could say stuff too, like, you know, whether it's in real estate or other realms of life and whatnot. But it's definitely amazing to see like what you're putting effort and energy into is paying off, and you're seeing that trajectory, whether it's, you know, everyone's starting somewhere, and like so many people get into this, especially in the different free groups and whatnot, because they're so, you know, they're so popular. You see them everywhere. Oh, I want to join the creative finance, let me look. And then they try doing this stuff for a week, and they're like, wait, I actually have to do work and call people and have conversations. It's not just free money and free houses like the ads say it is on YouTube. But it's crazy though. And yeah, I'm really happy to have everyone here, and just seeing the progress and growth from everybody. And yeah,